Two guys either side of 50 with one dream to achieve middle-aged sporting glory. This is the Missing Links Golf Show. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 9. I am quickly running out of fingers, but welcome to episode 9 of the Missing Links Golf Show. I'm Steve Hinks, and I am joined by the maestro of mentality, that is Andy Walker. So, Andy Walker, welcome to episode 9 of the Missing Links Golf Show.
Good evening, Mr. Hinks. How are you today?
I'm tops. It's great to be back. Episode 9. I'm pretty sure.
Look, I'm not sure that I'm the maestro of the mental game. I sort of feel this episode might
expose a few cracks there.
Well, and I think we might end up with maybe more questions than what we've got at the start, and we might.
I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that.
We might answer one or two, or maybe not. Maybe just might be more questions that we've got at the end of it.
We might, and it's interesting actually that now I reflect on that intro calling you the maestro of mentality, because it was the great man Sandy Wedge recently who said that you were hiding a mental fragility behind your silky ball striking.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, how are you feeling about that remark now?
Oh, look, I think I've let my golf do the talking, and given, now it's back-to-back Masters wins.
It is that.
I think that can be put to bed,
Yeah, well, I mean, you may say that, but, about an hour ago, the great man Sandy Wedge put a post on his very own Facebook page.
Did he really?
He tagged the Missing Links Golf Show in it. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it yet. I've actually got it here in front of me.
Okay.
I might read it out.
I'm interested to hear what he's got to say.
Yes.
Is it a full public apology like we've requested?
I think all will become apparent as I read this out, Andy Walker. But I'll read it out. As I say, literally an hour ago, this came on, and I've literally only just seen it before dialing into this recording. I think I used the word literally twice in the one sentence there, so my apologies to anyone that was keeping track. Anyway, Sandy Wedge says on his Facebook page, and look, if you don't follow Sandy on Facebook, I would actually recommend that you do. It's a bit of fun. Just look him up, Sandy Wedge, on Facebook. He's there's a photo of him there. I don't know how legitimate that photo is, if I could be perfectly honest. It looks like some kind of a dodgy guy in an overcoat with a camera. But anyway, I digress. Sandy says, and I quote, "Last weekend, the Missing Links Masters was played for 2023. I would like to offer my heartfelt congratulations to Andy Walker for becoming the first player in history to successfully defend the title and win the illustrious greenish jacket for the second year in a row. A truly remarkable achievement."
I like where it's going.
So that's the first paragraph.
Yeah.
He then goes on to say, "I would also like to formally address comments made on the Missing Links Golf Show regarding my pre-tournament player reviews." Again, Sandy's words, not mine. Yep. I'm reading this out.
I hear an apology coming.
He says, "All of my predictions were based on genuine, fact-based observations of the players involved, and I give my opinions with no fear or favour. Sometimes the truth hurts. Deal with it." Thoughts so far, Andy Walker?
Yeah. Not quite going in the direction I thought I was going to go.
Well, he then says, "As for the criticisms levelled at me regarding the inaccuracy of my predictions, I can say this. I correctly predicted that Mr. Trandin would finish third. That is a success rate of almost 17%. You show me a golf reporter with a better success rate for their pre-tournament reviews, and then I may consider an apology. Until then, I think it is you two gentlemen who owe me the apology. Love, Sandy Wedge."
I mean, look, at the end of the day, there were 6 people who played in the Masters. So
He
to
got one
get
right.
one out of to get 1 out of 6, I mean, a field of 100, if you get 17 right out of 100, then you sort of go, all right, that's decent.
Well,
But
that's what he's claiming.
you would think that 1 out of 6 isn't that difficult if you're basing, what you're saying off fact. Now, I think we addressed it at some stage that I don't think, well, we don't think that he was basing his opinions on fact. I think it was more the alternate facts that he was
Ooh.
basing his opinions on.
Well, we do live in a post-truth world at the moment, so
We do.
you know, you can draw whatever facts you really want that suit your argument at the moment.
Yeah, that is true. But look, I think that if he hadn't got any positions right out of 6, there'd be some serious questions asked.
So I think Sandy would probably argue that given that there were initially 7 players and then one dropped out, and so that skewed the opportunity to get things right, then that's made it much more difficult. Therefore, his 17% success rate's probably worth more than that. Putting words in the great man's mouth, but I would suspect that might be the way that he would look at it. So anyway, that's a strong
Everyone's
opening.
got the right to their own perspective, I guess.
They do. They absolutely do. So anyway, that's Sandy's update. And I think, dwell on that. We can come back to that later in the show if there's other remarks that you care to make on that, Andy Walker. I know that I've hit you with that.
Oh, no, look, I wish Sandy well. Good.
I'm sure he'll appreciate that. I have no doubt this dialogue may continue over future episodes as well somehow. It's as I say, look, if you're not already following Sandy Wedge on Facebook, I thoroughly recommend you do. He's an opinionated man. Get involved, maybe drop him a message, maybe let him know what you think. Like if you're out there listening, maybe get on board with Sandy Wedge on Facebook and give him your opinion. If you agree with him, give him a big thumbs up. If you agree with Andy Walker, maybe get stuck into him. But I think only good can come from controversy on social media.
Well, look, what they say, any news is good news. That's what they say, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's true. But anyhow, look, there's a couple of other things that I do want to address. I want to go back an episode or 2 ago. It might have been actually episode 7, part 1 of the Masters when in fact you, Andy Walker, were giving a bit of a review of the players in the field and how they might relate to PGA players.
Yeah, I did. And
we're describing Mickey Belafonte as Jim Furyk, which I think was an inspired description. I really do. But you might recall that we both struggled to identify Italy's first major winner. We described him as having won the Open Championship.
We did.
And we actually let that one go, and we haven't come back to it. So I'd like to come back to it, and I'd like to issue a heartfelt apology on behalf of the Missing Links Golf Show to an outstanding Italian golfer who is the brother of Edoardo Molinari. He is also the other half of Mollywood with Tommy Fleetwood, and that, of course, is Francesco Molinari. So our heartfelt apologies for forgetting you. I can't believe that. Frankie Molinari.
Yeah, I know. And I remember watching that Open, and he played so well, and it was such a great moment for him. And I Googled it straight after we got off
I'm sure you would have.
Recording the pod. I Googled it and I just went, that's it. So, had a bit of a mental blank at that point in time. But, apologies to Frankie. He's, good man.
He does seem so. So a few things on that. One is I agree, absolutely nothing like Mickey Belafonte, particularly when you look at the swing. Not many moving parts for Frankie, plenty for Mickey. But I want to throw this out there, Andy Walker. I think Frankie Molinari's swing is somewhat reminiscent of of Vietnam's first Masters winner, Nhi Tran Dinh. What do you think?
Yeah. Look, I can see the comparison certainly, and I did read an article no, a couple of years back, it was sort of when he won, just after he won the Open, about the changes that he made to his swing, and he said it was a pretty he took a bit of a risk in making these changes because he felt he didn't hit it far enough, which obviously,
he certainly hit it straight enough.
Yeah,
and likewise,
yeah,
and this is the thing.
Exactly. So he went through these changes with his golf coach to be able to hit the ball further, and made some significant changes, and hence has won the British Open since.
The Open.
So big
Andy Walker,
things
the
for
Open.
knee,
The Open.
knee trend in.
Well, potentially, but I mean, like Frankie Molinari, knee trend in has been in search of distance and has now introduced the lower half of the body below the hips into the golf swing, yes, which is great and certainly serving him well. But hopefully, he doesn't fall victim to that chase for distance. My other question is, if I had a question that I could ask Tommy Fleetwood, and my question would be for him is, which was more fun, Mollywood or Fleetwood Mac?
Well, look, I haven't really listened to anything from Mollywood to be honest with you, but I have been a Fleetwood Mac fan for a very long time.
Outstanding band. I actually saw them live with my lovely wife and my parents-in-law down at ASO Arena, I think it was, down in Sydney. Excellent concert. A couple of years ago now, but nevertheless, it was a lot of fun. Anyway, we digress. There is one other piece of semi-listener feedback that I would like to raise before we jump into this episode's topic, and that is, Andy Walker, that this global golf show that we know and love as the Missing Links Golf Show has gone further global. It's gone more. I don't know if more global.
Yeah.
Like, once something is global, can it be more global?
Potentially.
Seems that we have.
Not necessarily sure that that's the right terminology, but look, let's go with it.
We'll run with it.
That hasn't stopped us before.
And I would like to say a very big hola to our listenership in Mexico.
Mexico.
This is exciting. Puerto Vallarta is and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I'm sure I'm not. That's where our new listeners are from. Nice. So how good is that?
So does that mean we've officially gone south of the border?
No. Well, I mean, yes and no, but Central America, we haven't gone into South America yet. I mean, we're south of the US border, but we're not South America.
Yeah. No, it is Central America. So would actually like to get into South America. I mean, we're talking about Europe, which we haven't cracked the European market as yet. We've talked about Africa.
Yeah.
As you know, we are in Asia already.
Yes.
But
in Asia.
South America. I feel as though that's the new golfing frontier. I mean, there's a lot of really good golfers that have come out of South America in recent times.
Joaquin Neiman, as an example, new Australian Open champion.
Yes. Yep.
So, I mean, if only one of us had any family connections to South America, that would be helpful.
It would be. Do you think either of us do?
Who's to know? These are the mysteries.
Do a bit of research on that.
Let's put that on the list for questions and that we're not answering tonight. So anyway, tonight we're getting mental. It's time to go mental. We have talked about this topic since episode 1. We've flirted with the idea of getting into the mental game. Yet to do it, but I think tonight's the night. So I think there's a few little caveats that we want to put on this. One of those being that we do acknowledge that neither of us are experts in the mental game. We don't hold any formal qualifications, and I think, Andy Walker, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is fair to say that if you had a round of golf with either of us, you might see the odd mental error creep into our game.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to disagree with that at this point in time. But we'll see where the episode goes. I mean, look, I do feel as though the mental game of golf is, you can draw a lot of parallels to the physical game of golf in that there's a lot of information out there about the mental approach, and some of it is contradictory. So
Mm.
I think you've got to wade through all of the information that's out there and come up with your own way of doing things. And once you're through trial and error, once you come up with that, you need to basically block out all the noise. So because you can, I think, get quite confused and go down that whole paralysis by analysis, which you don't want in the mental game of golf.
It's true. It's true. You know what else I find is interesting, and this I learned through a bit of reading and a little bit of research, is that the body needs to burn almost as many calories doing intellectual thinking brain work. Geez, that sounded articulate. As it does with physical. So what that means is being out on the golf course, when you're concentrating and applying good mental disciplines, making good decisions, you're actually churning through as much glucose and as many calories as you are actually physically walking the course and swinging the club. And that's why you often find when you get tired that you start making bad decisions and losing concentration. Yeah, right. So, that's interesting, I think.
Interesting, because I do find that sitting at my computer desk when I'm working, even though I feel like I'm fully focused, I really don't feel as though I'm burning too many calories. And my weight scale certainly doesn't show that that burning of calories over the longer term.
Different calories that you're burning. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but what I do know is that there is the burning, the churning of blood sugars. I think it is more so than maybe fat cells that you're burning through. Anyway, the other thing I think it's probably worth doing is before we get into some of the topics is just talking about. We've both done a lot of reading lately about the mental side of the game, obviously about the physical side of the game. And I thought maybe it might be worthwhile sharing, possibly like a top 5 mental golf books that we've read lately. So I don't know. Do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
Yeah, look, I think that that there's a couple of books, certainly in recent times, that I've found to be quite useful. Both of them by Dr. Bob Rotella. The first one, I haven't read a huge amount of it, probably only about 25% of it, which is Golf is Not a Game of Perfect. But the next one that I've actually listened to the audiobook all the way through, and now just making a start on the physical book, is Make Your Next Shot Your Best Shot. And I'm finding there's quite a lot of really good information in that book, which I'm giving some thought and trying to understand how I'm going to implement that into my game.
So Dr. Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, I have read Golf is Not a Game of Perfect. It's also on my list on my top 5. Good book. It's not my favourite. Probably comes in at about 5.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but he really is an advocate, Dave McClellan style, for short game, short game, short game.
Yes. Yeah, he is. And if I just let me go to one of his quotes that I highlighted.
Because he's also one of those guys that sort of goes club down on the tee. Take the 3-wood, don't take the driver. Take a long iron, don't take the driver.
Oh, not necessarily. The way I've read what his in his books is that you need to be conservative off the tee, in that you need to get the ball in play, whether that's with your driver, whether that's your 3-wood, or whether that's with an iron. But I don't think he advocates to take a club less with on every tee. So I certainly think that he's of the opinion that if the driver's there to be used, to use it, but you need to be conservative in your game. Whereas I know that John Sermon talks about, and we'll come to John Sermon's book, he talks about hitting driver in the vast majority of instances. So there is a difference there.
Yeah, and that's probably more what I'm talking about. I think that's the biggest shift between old school strategy and modern strategy, is that old school strategy often talked about being conservative off the tee to get the ball in play.
Yep.
modern strategy says more about being aggressive off the tee, conservative at the green, and being aggressive off the tee because the driver is a massive club head and pretty easy to hit these days. Not always accurate, but the argument is that the 3-wood or the fairway wood is actually comparatively quite a small club head, quite easy to miss hit, and you actually don't hit many more fairways with a 3-wood than you do with a driver, but you do give up distance. So the advantage isn't necessarily as obvious as it seems.
The other thing that Dr. Bob Rotella says is that on the PGA Tour, the courses are set up to bomb it. So that's why you see a lot of the PGA Tour pros just taking a driver on every tee because that's how it's set up. Whereas most club golfers, when they play a golf course, it's not set up like a PGA Tour event. It's you've still got the rough, you've still got a lot of the danger and a lot of your hazards within range of your tee shot. So he's talking about being conservative in the fact that club golfers, generally speaking, are playing a very different golf course to the way that the PGA Tour professionals have got the courses set up to play.
Oh, that's true. It's definitely true.
What he's basically said is that the PGA Tour are after TV ratings, and TV ratings come from making birdies and eagles. So they set the golf courses up to be able to make birdies and eagles.
So I would put it out there that golf membership would also be a big fan of birdies and eagles. So maybe golf clubs should think about promoting birdies and eagles with course setup.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree with that. But also I'm a bit of a traditionalist, so I don't necessarily think that doing away with all rough and trees and hazards is the best way to go. I think I grew up with strategy, and obviously having grown up around and watching the likes of Jack Nicklaus play and Nick Faldo play and these guys that were great strategists, that's how I've learned to play the game and appreciate the game. Whereas I'm not a fan of just bombing it down the fairway. I really like watching the US Open and the US PGA and those events where you've got a decent amount of rough and players who try and bomb it and overpower the course, obviously except for Bryson DeChambeau in 2020, don't necessarily do the best. So I quite like seeing that strategy. And he does talk about Tiger Woods, that Tiger Woods is more of a Jack Nicklaus type of strategy player than the likes of, say, Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka and a lot of the more modern players who were more
Rory.
in the likeness of Arnold Palmer, who tried to, he had a very much a power game.
Yeah, outmuscle the course. Yeah, and that's all absolutely fair. So look, well done us. I think we're about 7 minutes through our book reviews and we've covered one title, which is typical. But anyway, look, I agree. Dr. Bob, he's on my list as well. And I think, there's good points and bad points. We both agree that he loves to drop a name throughout the course of his narrative also.
Yeah, look, he has worked with a lot of great golfers.
Yeah.
And part of the storytelling that he indulges in his book does mention a lot of those great professional golfers. So, look, give the guy credit. He has actually achieved a lot and has worked with a lot of those great players.
Yeah, without a doubt. As I say, he's on both of our top fives. What else you got?
Look, there's a book that I really like that's not specifically a golfing book. It does have golfing references in there, but it's a book called Talent is Overrated.
Oh, isn't it though?
Yeah, look, I think that, but by a guy by the name of Jeff Colvin, and he talks about the difference between innate talent and hard work. And he basically comes from the opinion that and the perspective that what may seem to be innate talent is nothing but basically immersing your life in a given uh, given endeavor to a point where you're a master at it. And then people, once you're a master at it, people look back and go, "Oh, they've got so much talent."
It's the old overnight success takes decades to achieve.
Correct.
Types.
Correct.
I do like this thinking. As we move into the topic, this is something that's going to come up when we talk about growth mindsets. So I think we'll definitely come back to that. I 100% agree. Another one.
So that's three. So let's let's come to you. Just go throw us a couple of titles that you quite enjoy.
Yeah. So there's one. There's one which I'm going to start at my number one, and the book that I truly think has had the biggest impact for me personally, the one that I've learnt the most about, or learnt the most from. And two, if I was going to recommend to anyone, read this book because I think it will genuinely help your golf, then it would be this one, and that is The Four Foundations of Golf by our friend John Sherman.
Great book.
I know is on your list. And
that's definitely in my top 5.
And that's absolutely the one that deals with awareness. So awareness of the golf course, awareness of where the hazards are, the opportunities are, awareness of your own game, and your own shapes and your own preferences, then expectation setting, and that's not just for the round, but that's more for each shot, and understanding. I think the line that I really like that he uses is that he talks about when he's got his driver in his hand, he's standing on the tee box, and he understands that he's not standing there with a sniper rifle, but he's standing there with a shotgun, which has got a much wider dispersion pattern, and trying to aim the center of that dispersion pattern so that the majority of that dispersion pattern actually lands safely, not aiming the sniper rifle at the specific point that you want to hit. And when it comes to course management, that mindset shift is enormous. The other thing that he talks about then is acceptance. So once the shot's played, accepting that it is within your range of normal shots, so you can let that go, move on, learn the lessons that you need to, and go and repeat the process. So I think there's a huge amount in that, and I've paraphrased his book into about 3 sentences, but it's a really, really good understanding of how to set yourself up to be emotionally stable throughout the round and actually get the most out of the game. Yeah, so I think it's really cool.
Look, and I've read that book as well, and as I said, it's in my top 5. I think it's an excellent book for those people who just want to understand themselves a little bit better and understand where they should be focusing on their game and the approach that they should have around a golf course. He certainly talks about, the average golfer, and you mentioned the expectation around the average golfer, and that most average golfers will land short of the green in their approach shots. And that's because most golfers mishit their shots, whereas if they take the club to land on the back of the green, if you mishit your shot, you are still going to end up on the front half. Yeah. And that to me makes so much sense.
But it's a huge difference. And I've started doing that since reading it. And it was interesting because, without going down this rabbit hole, but I was looking earlier today, I was looking at my strokes gain stats for approach shots. And I've actually, whilst I haven't, as we have well documented, cracked into the single digits because I've missed a few free swing opportunities with non-flag round. But what I have done is actually brought my approach shot strokes gain down by about 2.5 shots.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, over recent times, which is pretty much by doing exactly what you just mentioned, and that's taking the back of the green yardage for club selection, regardless of where the pin is. Because even if it's a front pin, and I think this has been also well documented in PGA tours, there are more missed greens by PGA pros for front pins than there are for centre or back pins. For exactly this region, that they take the yardage to the front pin, and you're effectively then chopping the hittable green area like down by a third, or to a third, by cutting it down by 2/3. And when you miss short with a front pin, you're effectively short-sighted.
Yeah, and a lot of the trouble is short. I mean, if you think about where bunkers are located around a green, the vast majority the front half of the green. So especially if you're not a great bunker player, you should be taking a yardage to hit the back half of the green.
Yeah.
And what John Sermon says is that if you happen to nail it and it goes over the back of the green, while that's not ideal, generally speaking, the worst of the trouble is not at the back of the green. It's short of the green.
And that's the only statement I disagree with his rationale, because quite often on a lot of the courses that you play, the green will tilt from back to front. And when you go long, you quite often can hit a downslope and get shot into some pretty bad stuff, a la 17th at Mudgee, day one.
Yes.
But regardless, I think your chances of that happening are much less than taking a front of green yardage on a front pin and probably coming up short. Then you got to chip and putt, and you'll probably give a shot away. So I do think that's a really good one. Another one that I want to add to the list is, and this is a bit of a left field one, it is called Be a Player by two ladies called P
By
and
Gary?
No. And I don't think they were referencing Be a Player as in Gary Player. I think probably more so just Be a Player. P and Nielsen and Lynn Marriott.
Yeah, sorry for just go off topic for a little bit. I did download an audio book the other day by Gary Player, and it's called Don't Choke.
Oh, it's such positive self-talk. I really like that. We'll cover this, I'm sure, tonight because
I haven't listened to it, but I saw it there, and I just went, I've got to do that. I've got to listen to that just to see what it has to say.
Yeah, Just Don't Diamond, I think you could have called it.
Yeah.
Don't choke. Like the funny thing with the mental game is the brain can't process negative qualifiers in statements. So what the brain actually hears when you say don't choke, the brain hears choke.
Yeah. It leaves out the don't.
Yes, because it can't process a negative qualifier. So it's like when you say don't go in the water, don't go in the trees, you will
don't miss it.
On that. Yeah. So Gary, super work. Friend of the Missing Links Golf Show, of course, Gary Player, but probably got a little bit of work to do with the mental game.
Yeah.
So look, I think what we'll do, rather than going through all of these books, there's a few others that we got to mention. What we might actually do is throw them in the show notes and pop them on the Facebook page, and we might just do a bit of a post every other day on the Missing Links Golf Show Facebook page with links to these books, because I do think there's so much out there, and these are ones that we've read, so you don't have to go into it thinking, I don't know if it's any good. We've read it. We think it's good. Gets our stamp of approval. If you've got any faith at all in our opinion, then go for it. If you don't, then, well, you know what? Have a chat with Sandy Wedge.
But look, I mean, I think that it's also, if you have read any great books that we haven't covered,
100%.
Put them on the Facebook page, because it's something that we're always interested in, looking at new material and new ways of approaching the game. So put it on the Facebook group, and we'll have a look at it.
This might spawn a spin-off podcast called the Missing Links Book Club. But anyway, look, let's have a chat about some mental stuff. So there's a couple of topics that I do want to talk about, because these are ones that I feel like I do have a little bit to offer on in my career side of things, having studied a Masters of Business Management. Part of that included workplace psychology, organisational psychology. Very, very transferable topics to sporting psychology. So there are a couple of topics, and the first one that I want to talk about, Andy Walker, is self-perception. I've learned a lot about this actually in my own games, because when I was at around about the mid to high teens handicap, and I was sitting there for a while, I think we talked about in the very first episode the devilishly handsome PE teacher, colleague of mine that forced this sort of journey of self-discovery, and the first step was stop thinking of myself as a 15 or 17 handicapper and stop putting that label. We do it all the time as golfers. When you say to someone, you meet someone You know, could be at a dinner party, could be at work, could be whatever. And they'll go, oh, you're a golfer. What's your handicap? You go, oh, I'm an 18, or I'm a 10, or I'm a 5, or I'm a whatever. You're plonking a label right on yourself there. And there's a great quote. Yeah. There's a great quote which it's I'm not sure who said it because it has been attributed to a number of different people. But it goes, you can never be better than you believe you are. And there's another one which Henry Ford said, Henry Ford, I drive a Ford, irrelevant topic, but, there you go, there's a segue. His quote was, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
Yeah. And look, I'm a massive fan of that quote. That's something that I read, a number of years ago. And there's a lot to be gained from having a really good understanding of that quote, because it's your mindset and it's your can-do mindset that really determines what that end result is. And it's the same as what we we're talking about before. If you're standing over a 10-foot putt for your best round of golf, if you're telling yourself that you can't do it, or you're saying don't miss, if you're looking at that side of the equation, the chances of you making that putt are slim to none.
Yep, they're very small. However, or in addition, however, thoughts are just that. Thoughts are just thoughts. This is actually something in another one of the books. It's called The Three Principles of Outstanding Golf by Sam Jarman. He talks about the nature of thought, and there are things that happen. Your thinking applies either a good or a bad lens to it, but your thoughts are just thoughts. So to that point of standing over a shot where you go, I'm short-sighted, I've got to chip over a bunker onto a green, you stand over the ball, don't fat it into the bunker. Just because you thought that doesn't mean it's going to happen, unless you choose to believe the thought, in which point it absolutely will happen. And a good anti.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a double. It's a bit of an Inception double layer, but it's a thing. Whereas if you stand over it and you have the thought going, don't fat it into a bunker. If you can kind of mentally step back from that and go, it's just a thought. Let it wash over. Let it pass. And the antidote is also, there's a possibility I could sink it, and that just frees you up. But if you have the thought and you go, oh my God, I've had a negative thought. Don't have negative thoughts. Negative thoughts are bad, and now you're cursing yourself for having had a negative thought in the first place. Like it's a bit of a double jeopardy that comes in. So it's actually
I understand what he means, but I don't know. To me, it's a little bit of semantics.
It's not with the way the brain works, because if you try and shut out a negative thought and replace it with positive thoughts, at the worst possible time, the negative thought will sneak back in, and that will be as you're in transition in the shot, and that negative thought will go, "Hi, here I am. Don't fat it in the bunker," and you do. Whereas
so then what's the answer? Like if you're not replacing a negative thought with a positive thought, what's the answer to it?
You can replace it with a positive thought, but it's not to try and banish it. The reality is to understand. You go, it's just a thought. We have thoughts all the time. Just because I've thought it doesn't make it true. I can think that, and I can also think that I might hit a great shot. That's just as possible as fatting it. So you're just almost hosing it down rather than trying to push it aside into a corner.
Yeah, I'm not convinced, but
give it a go.
Let's go with it.
Yeah, I'm obviously not explaining it well enough, but it is interesting, and I have tried it, and it does actually free you a little bit from being in this panic state of going, I've got a tough shot, and I've had a negative thought. I need to banish the negative thought. And it's like, no, just allow it. It's fine. It's not a big deal. You can have the negative thought, but just because you had it doesn't mean it's going to happen. You can let it go, and you can also have a positive thought, and that's also equally as possible of happening. And remembering with the expectation setting that we talked about before from John Sherman, all of these things are possible. And they're possible because they're possible.
I mean, the question is that if you're standing over a 3-foot putt for your best round ever, or a 10-foot putt, or chipping over a bunker, is that what you want to have going through your mind? that conversation.
It's better than fixating on don't think about don't missing it, don't miss it, and don't think about don't missing it. Getting super tense. You just the purpose is that you're trying to relax, and then when you relax, you're allowing your athleticism to come through. Anyway, I feel like we're getting slightly off topic.
Slightly. Couldn't foresee this happening at all.
No, and it's part of the point because obviously, raising questions. So on this. If you are listening and you're a sports psychologist listening to our conversation going, seriously, guys, seriously.
You need to be sorted out, man.
Back away from the microphone. A, you've got a point, but B, please help us. We clearly need help. But anyway, self-perception, it's definitely a big thing. And I think if you can have a self view that is not limiting, then that's a good thing. I
certainly think that having the belief that, whether it be a single figure mark or a scratch marker, having the belief that you can, even though right now that's not where your game is, that's a good positive mindset to have.
Yeah, which is a good segue because the next kind of mini topic that I wanted to raise is about growth mindset versus fixed mindset.
Yep.
So this is an interesting one. I talk about this at work quite a bit because it's very important. So hey, you know what? Bonus here. We're not just talking about golf. This is life development. You can take this to work. You can take it into relationships if you want to.
Yeah.
So mindset. So a definition of a mindset, I think, is not a bad place to start. And what is a mindset? So I'm not going to do a quiz, Andy Walker, you can relax, but a mindset, and it's good to understand it, is a series of beliefs or self-perceptions that people hold about themselves. So that's a definition. A fixed mindset, which is essentially the definition of that is someone that believes that intelligence, talent, or other qualities are innate and unchangeable. That if you're not good at something, you typically think you will never be good at it. Conversely, those people who are good at things, you just think that it's a God-given ability, which is what you were talking about before.
That comes back to that book, Talent is Overrated.
Exactly right. Versus a growth mindset, which is a space where people believe that their most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. And again, it's exactly what you're talking about. So, brains, talent, abilities, just the starting point, but that love of learning and resilience is essential for great achievement. Yep. There's a psychologist by the name of Carol Dweck who wrote quite a thesis on this back in 2015. Check it out. It's all online. Google Scholar if you're interested. But super important when it comes to golf because, again, a link to that self-perception piece. If you're thinking about yourself as limited, I'm a high handicapper, I'm a slicer, that's just what I do. Hef, looking at you, I come over the top. If that's the way you see yourself, it's never going to change. But if you've got that growth mindset that you go, you know what, at the moment, this is where I'm at. But of course, with the right work, etc., I can improve. Example of that is when you hear people say, and I know I've gone back through earlier episodes, I've been guilty of this. I'm a terrible putter. I think I said that in episode 2 or something. I said I see myself as a particularly poor putter.
Yeah, you did.
Fixed mindset, right? As opposed to reframing that statement might look something like, I don't practice or focus much on putting, so I couldn't expect to be good at the moment. However, if I spend some time on practice and build my confidence, I'm sure putting could become a strength. It's long-winded, sure. But it's just a different way of looking at it because it's going, this is where I am at the moment, this is where I could be. It's just the work in between. I'm not condemned to putt poorly for the rest of my life if I don't want to.
Yeah. Look, and there's a couple of things that I'd like to bring up, and there's another podcast that I listen to called The Mindset Mentor, a guy by the name of Rob Dole Jr. And he talks about
friend of the show. Rob's a friend of the show. Yeah,
of course he's a friend of the show.
Yeah, you know what? We should send out an invite. Rob, get on the show. Come have a chat with us.
Yeah, but he's I've listened to his podcast for a number of years now. And he's got a quote that says, "Hard work beats talent when talent isn't prepared to work hard."
Oh, for sure.
And that to me is absolutely spot on. And what you see with, well, I think endeavors everywhere that you see people who you go, oh yeah, they've got a lot of talent,
Yeah.
but then you see others that don't necessarily have a lot of talent, but they've got to where they are just through sheer hard work. And I mean, you hear the
Absolutely.
quote all the time about the young guy who's got so much talent and has just wasted his talent and never gets anywhere.
Mm.
Whereas you get the other guy
Mm.
who, it doesn't necessarily come easy to them, but
Mm.
they just grind it out, and they get a lot further than what the so-called talent person ever does. And I mean, that also then comes back to the talent is overrated, and taking it a step further is not just working hard. So when we talk about practice, you're talking about deliberate practice. And then you talk about the likes of Ben Hogan, who said he never hit a golf ball without intent, regardless of whether it was on the range or on the golf course. So he had intent with every single shot that he hit. And I know Tiger Woods had the same approach. I mean, when he practiced, he would have his 9 windows that he would try and hit.
Yeah.
And then at certain times, he would then take a break, sit down, and think about what he'd just done in his practice, and try and understand what he did well, what he didn't do well, and continually improve his game and his approach. So that deliberate practice, it's not just about getting on the range and beating balls. I mean, you can work hard on the range without actually having any intention or deliberate nature to it. So again, that sort of comes back to that, the growth mindset rather than the fixed mindset of, okay, well, my fixed mindset is that, I'm not particularly talented at golf, so I'm never going to get to be a single figure marker or a scratch marker, but through deliberate practice, you can get there if you've got that growth mindset.
Yes. I guess there's also a question about potential that comes in at some point, because like no matter how hard some of us work, many of us work, you're never going to be a major winner. Like at some point there's a ceiling, I guess is what I'm saying. Because talent's got to play a role at some point, and that's talent plus hard work rather than talent without hard work. Talent without hard work's going nowhere. Talent plus hard work's going right to the top. No talent, hard work is probably going to go further than talent without hard work. And I'm sure there's many combinations in between, but there's also got to be because a lot of people go, really do look skeptically at sports psychology, and, will point the finger going, oh, well, it doesn't matter how much you want something. If you're not good enough, you're never going to get it. But it's obviously more complex than that. But there is obviously a degree of potential that does come into it. And you can milk the most out of what you've got to offer, but it doesn't mean everyone can be the best in the world.
Look, and it's, I mean, there are certainly physical limitations with that, and in the Talent is Overrated book, that is covered to a certain extent. I mean, it was, the conversation came up around Michael Phelps, and Michael Phelps being the absolute perfect build to be a swimmer.
Yeah.
Now he put in the hard work and the dedication and got to where he went just through that sheer determination to get there, but he was also blessed with a physical capacity in the build in his body that not many people have.
Yep. And that's the secret to success for the all-time greats. For the person that wants to win the club championship, if you're interested in the game, you've grown up playing it, you've got a certain amount of skills, you can make a par on any given hole.
Yep.
Putting the work in is probably going to get you there. That's interesting. I want to move on to another little topic here. This is a bit out there, Andy Walker. I don't know if you've heard of this one, or many people have heard of this one. Some may have. It's called the reticular activating system.
Look, and you sent me a little bit of information earlier on, which I hadn't heard of the reticular activating system prior to that. But then when you explained what it was, I went, oh, yeah, I've heard of that before.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure
And everyone's
most people probably have.
experienced it. So
Yeah.
the reticular activating system, it's a part of the primitive brain, and essentially, you kind of got to remember that we have evolved from, ancient humans who walked the Serengeti Plain, and their brain was designed to keep them alive. Okay, so something that's interesting is that, and the statistic is that every single second there is approximately 40 million pieces of sensory stimuli that are coming into your body, either visually, auditory, smells, tastes, touches, feelings, all those sorts of things. Your conscious brain can process only 40 pieces of stimuli per second. So that is 1/1,000,000th of what's actually coming in. So the question is, how do you decide which of those 40 million pieces of stimuli are important for your conscious brain to recognize and process? And that's what the reticular activating system does. It's a filtering process within the ancient reptilian part of the brain that actually processes that, which is pretty out there. And you might go, well, yeah, right, all right. Well, what does that mean? So what that means is, and some common examples is, have you ever been in a situation where you've bought a new car? I don't know, Andy Walker, probably a Toyota Echo or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's my car.
Yeah, which you've finally saved up for and been able to buy.
I did want the Volkswagen Golf, obviously. But,
of course. Yeah.
Could only afford the Echo.
Yeah, could only afford the Echo. Anyway, you go, I'm going to buy it. And even at the point we decide that you're going to buy it, you haven't necessarily got it yet, but you've looked at it in the car yard and you go, I'm going to buy it. That's what I'm interested in. Your reticular activating system now goes, Toyota Echoes are important to you. I shall now point out every single one that you see and drive past on the road. And all of a sudden you notice them all over the place. And I think we've all experienced this. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden there are more Toyota Echoes on the road. It just means that previously your RAS would go, I don't care about them. I'm not going to bother you with identifying these vehicles out on the road. But now all of a sudden it's important to you. Therefore, I am going to identify them. The other one, which is
especially in the color that you're just about to buy.
Yeah. It's amazing. The other one, which happens sometimes, you might have experienced this, is you might be at a party or a function, something like that, or in a bar, whatever. Not that we go to bars anymore. And it's loud and there's a lot of white noise, and you can't hear the conversations that are going. You barely hear the conversation that you're in. I know I struggle with that sometimes. But someone on the other side of the room will say your name. Yep. And you hear it as clear as a bell. Now, the amazing thing is that what you don't realize is that your subconscious brain has been pulling in all of that data, and you think it's white noise, but that's because your RAS is blocking it because it doesn't think it's important. Yep. But as soon as it hears your name, it goes, well, hang on a minute, Andy Walker, I just heard Andy Walker over there. You need to pay attention to this. It's wild. Yep. It's absolutely wild. But it's a thing. So the reason that it's relevant is because your RAS plays tricks on your mind all the time on the golf course, all the time. And it will pinpoint hazards. It'll pinpoint if you've hit a couple left, it'll remember, like if you think you're a slicer and you've sliced a couple, it'll remember them and it'll forget the other 8 good shots that you've played that weren't a slice. Yep. It'll selectively identify things to either reinforce your self-view or to sabotage you. And it's responsible for pointing out the bunker in front of you when you're trying to short side chip over the bunker onto the green. That's your RAS going, hey, there's a bunker there.
Yeah, so what you're saying is when you're warming up and you're on the practice range and you've just smoked 6 or 7 drives in a row and you get on the first tee and it's tree line down the left and water on the right and you're going, oh, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
And the chances of you hitting the fairway from there, you put your driver away and pull out your 3-iron to try and hit the fairway. Is that what you're talking about?
It could be that. You've experienced that, I think, Andy Walker.
No.
So, look, the trick with this, and I would encourage people to to do a bit of a Google search on it, read up on it, think about how it maybe plays a part. But the more that you can, because you can reprogram it, like in the same way as buying a car or program it for buying a car. If you start to think about positive things, then you can actually program it into positive things and look for opportunities and those sorts of things. So it's one to be aware of. And that it also leads into the next one, which is called locus of control. You might have heard this in other ways, but the locus of control is the degree to which you believe that your success or failure is a result of your actions. That's an internal locus versus an external locus. Is you believe that your success or failure is the result of external factors and things beyond your control.
Yep.
And that's an interesting one, and that is why you will generally hear sports people, golfers as well, at the end of a game or the end of a round, they'll always talk about the things that were in their control, and they'll very rarely, start saying, "Oh, it was just too hard out there. It was too windy. It was too this. It was too that. The other guy was too good." You don't go into that victimology. You stay in control of your own destiny. So there are a few interesting points, Andy Walker. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's a lot there. I mean, certainly that last point of you always tend to remember, the three putt that you've had, or I had 4 3-putts and that cost me, but you don't take into consideration that you've also, binned a couple of 30-footers, or you might have had the chip that's gone across the green and slammed into the pin and ended up a foot from the hole. So I certainly understand that perspective, and that's very relevant to the way that the vast majority of people look at their game, and you hear the pros talk about it all the time. They'll say, I feel as though I left so many shots out there on the golf course.
Yeah.
Without actually going, well, hang on a minute, you actually saved on a number of holes. You saved what was a pretty ordinary situation. You've come out of it, with a par or birdie.
Yeah. It's actually talked about quite a bit in the book that I was talking about called Be a Player by Pia Nielsen and Lynn Marriott. And one of the things that they do is, I think we're all familiar with the think box, play box mentality where, think box, you're standing behind the ball. That's where you're doing your analysis. Wind's going this way, the lie's going that way. It's uphill, it's downhill, whatever. This is the shot I need to play. This is the club I need. You do all your analysis. And then as you get over the ball, you step into the play box, and that's where you stop thinking about all that and you're just focusing on hitting the ball and executing your swing.
So being reactive or athletic.
Which I think the phrase, What these guys then talk about is after that is actually creating a memory box and processing what happened and trying to actively remember the good stuff when that happens.
Yep.
Because there is a stat, I can't remember exactly what it is, but something like 8-1, you will remember a negative experience over a positive experience on the golf course. It's like 8. I think it's about 8-1, it's something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And so therefore, and I think we all feel it. Like you hit a number of good shots, and then you hit 1 or 2 bad shots that causes a bogey or a double bogey, or in my case, sometimes a quadruple bogey. And then you get to the next tee, and that's all you think about. You're not thinking about the other 4 good holes beforehand.
Yep. Yep.
Whereas if you'd had 4 bad holes, and then you just happen to have 1 good shot on the previous hole, you're not going to think about that on the next tee box because you'll still be stuck in the bad holes. So an awareness of that gives you the opportunity to do something about it.
Yep. Well, interesting, because I sort of, as you were saying that, it sort of brought a memory back of last weekend at the Masters, where on the second day, on the 15th, I had a little chip and run, which I hit way too hard.
You did.
It hit the pin, ended up about 2.5 foot from the hole, which I made for par. Then on 16, as we talked about, I leaked a drive into the hazard where I didn't know the hazard. And, I've been thinking all week, when I've been thinking about what happened on the weekend, I was just like, oh, that was such bad luck. And I didn't, because I didn't know it was there. I didn't really know the course. If I had known the course, I potentially could have hit away from the hazard and taken a better line. But at no stage had I thought about the 15th where I hit the flag almost dead center, and it would have been 15 foot past the hole if
easily.
Yeah, if it hadn't hit the
Yeah.
flag. So yeah, that's exactly what you're talking about.
It is, and we do it all the time. And the thing is, when you become aware of it, you can actually flip it during a round. You can consciously flip it and go, in the next round that I play, I'm going to focus on remembering and really highlighting either the things that go my way or good shots that I've played. And it's understanding what constitutes a good shot as well. I think we talked about that last episode, is that it doesn't have to be piped up the fairway, but like a drive that's in play and you've got a shot at the green. That's a good drive.
Mm. Yeah.
So yeah, there's quite a bit there. I mean, the other thing that it's the John Sherman method, which is kind of what we're talking about. Like that's that awareness, planning a shot, expectations of like realistically how likely am I to get it within a certain radius, and then just accepting the result, learn the lessons, but let the kind of the analysis and the picking it apart for improvement happen after the round, not during the round.
Yep.
And I'm horrendously guilty of not doing that. Like you try and make swing changes on the course rather than just swing your swing and then worry about it later.
Yeah, but it's part of that. Yeah, that staying in the moment. I mean, there's a couple of things I think that you need to be aware of. Firstly, it's that if you're having a good round and you're starting to on your scorecard starting to go, oh, I could shoot 75 today, or
absolutely.
that's the worst thing that you can do is trying to figure out what you're going to shoot on the 13th, 14th, 15th hole. I mean, that's just going to lead you down the wrong path, and you're going to end up making a mistake at some point.
So I don't know if you remember this. When I was trying to break 80 for the first time, and we had a few conversations.
Is that at Nelson Bay?
Yeah. It's exactly that. And we had a few conversations about it because I've been trying to do it for a little while, and we're at Nelson Bay. For everyone listening, I was having a good round, and I think I could have, with 3 holes to play, if I made 1 par and 2 bogeys, I would have broken 80, I think was what it looked like. And then I started thinking about that, and I started thinking about making 2 bogeys and 1 par, and started thinking about shooting 79.
Yep.
And I made a double and then a bogey and then another bogey or a double or something, I think it was. And I shot about an 80, 82 maybe.
Yeah.
And so that, and that was quite disappointing, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was a good round of golf. It won the comp that day, but it was disappointing. So then not that long after that when, I don't know, actually it was that long. It was probably about 8 months after that when I had the next opportunity. And I was getting to a very similar stage with about probably 4 holes to play and started and realised that it was on. I did 2 things. One, I really tried to stay in the moment and think about the process of every shot. But the other thing that I actually did is I said, I don't want to think about breaking 80. Actually, what I'm going to do today is try and break 75.
Yep.
And shifted the target lower. And I ended up shooting 76. I missed the 75, but shot a 76 and obviously easily broke 80. So that was a real lesson. Because then once you get through that barrier, you don't really think about it anymore. So it's not a thing like it is the first time you do it. Yeah. It eases the pressure so you don't freak out quite so much. But that honestly, that's one of the questions that I've got for us if anyone is listening, and I think we'd like to talk to a professional in this space. It's about really, I think we all understand the concept of process versus outcome thinking to stay in the moment, but it is so hard.
See, the second part of that as well, and where I've struggled at times, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people in the same boat, is we all lead busy lives. We've all got stuff on in our lives, and being able to compartmentalize that before you go out in the golf course. So you're not thinking about what you've got to do tomorrow, what you've got to do next week, what's going on with your work or business. The kids haven't been that great, so I've got to have a conversation with them when at some stage when I get home. Being present and being in that moment while you're on the golf course when you've got so much going on outside of your golf, that's really hard. And that's that's been really difficult at certain points in my life, more so than staying, thinking about what I'm going to shoot. It's more so being able to separate what's going on outside of my life so that I can fully focus when I'm on the golf course.
100%. I mean, that even comes down to days when you're struggling a little bit mentally. You might still be playing well, but if you're not really solid mentally, the conduct of other groups on the golf course, or even the conduct of your playing partners, that can get in your head.
Yeah, for sure.
And that can do even the same sort of thing that you're talking about. Or you stupidly, between holes, check your phone and there's a text message from somebody that gets your goat. That can derail. So I think there's so many, and a game of golf lasts a long time, and the concentration required to play a good round of golf and stay strong mentally, it lasts for a long time. It's very, very difficult. So the strategies, I guess we're calling out for help on those strategies and some of those techniques and things to do. That's a big one. Another one, Andy Walker, is the importance of self-talk and how you can control the self-talk. I know we've talked a little bit about that already.
Yeah.
But I think on this one, it's that optimism versus realism versus pessimism. Like self-talk that's cheerleader, it just doesn't cut it. Your brain can see through that.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's a big one. I think there's some big topics. So
look, and I mean that's something that I'm, and again, not being an expert, but I'm trying to have conversations with my 10-year-old son about how you talk to yourself and how that's going to play a massive part in your life. If you can tell yourself, if you're kind to yourself, and if you look at the good things that are going in your life and be grateful for what's going in your life rather than always looking at the bad side, that's something that I think stands you in good stead to be able to be positive and be able to deal with a lot of the challenges that come up in life and be resilient to get through those challenges.
Absolutely. That's good advice. That's very good advice. He's a lucky boy, that one, getting such mentoring from,
from the maestro.
From the maestro of mentality himself. Look, there's a lot to think about. I think we're mindful that we've ticked over the hour here on this episode, and we could probably talk for another hour comfortably. So we might come back to this topic on another episode. But
there is one more thing that I'd like to mention if I can, and that's when you're over the ball, when you're in that sort of moment where you're just about to take the golf club away throughout your swing, what's your thought process? Where's your mind? Because I've now read a couple of different perspectives on this, and one of them came from Dr. Bob Rotella in that he talked about Bobby Jones, in that he was taught not to have any swing thoughts at all, like to have a quiet mind.
Can't do it.
Whereas
you've watched Ghostbusters, okay? You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
The Stay Puffed Man. Clear your mind. Don't think of anything. You can't do it. Like honestly, and this is the thing with meditation. Like if you can keep your mind honestly quiet and empty, you're a better man than I am.
Yeah. I can't see how that would work, because I've always been taught, and what's worked for me is to have, well, ideally one, maximum of two swing thoughts. Now, I've heard Jack Nicklaus talk about he used to go to the movies when before every shot, and I believe Tiger Woods does the same thing, is that he has a picture of the shot in his mind. He's not necessarily he doesn't have any swing thoughts or swing keys, but he has a picture of the shot. And he's then going into athletic mode as he's making the swing, allowing his body the freedom to be able to make the swing that is required for the shot that he's got in his mind.
I've also heard that, and one of the things with that is that apparently the more specific you can get with the shot shape that's required and the more creative that you can get with what needs to happen, the more you help the athletic body self-organize to execute that, which is why it's funny. Like, you quite often will play your best golf shots when they're miraculous recovery shots, because you've got to do this absolutely specific thing, rather than playing a shot from the middle of the fairway with the whole green in front of you. So it's that kind of thinking. It's that having that really clear visual of what you've got to do.
Yeah. So I mean, there are three basic different approaches there to standing over the ball. One, having a quiet mind, having nothing in your mind. Two, having a couple of small one or two swing thoughts, and three, having a picture of the shot that you want. So I mean, I've always gone with the 1 to 2 swing thoughts as I'm standing over the ball. So
and are they feel thoughts or technical thoughts?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I know that they come from what I've been practicing on the range and from a technical perspective, but it's something that I'm trying to feel my body do throughout the swing. It's just it's usually one. I try and limit it to one, but sometimes it's two. Just a feel of where I want. Like, for instance, at the moment it's my left shoulder and making a full shoulder turn. It's feeling where my left shoulder needs to be and where I want it to be at the top of my swing. So that's, I'm not trying to force it there. I'm not trying to make it a deliberate move. It's more so I want that feeling of being there. So it's a subtle difference, but yeah, that's what's always tended to work for me, rather than having a picture in my mind as to the shot shape that I want. Because I mean, I've always had a stock standard shot shape. I have don't fade the ball, draw the ball, or whatever. I've always had just the stock standard shot shape, and I look at the flight of the ball and whether it be hit a punch shot or just hit a standard shot or hit it a little bit higher. But the shape of it, whether it be a draw or in earlier days a fade, which was my stock standard shot, it's always been that shot shape.
Yep. So and I think that's interesting, and you got me thinking about an experience that I had a little while ago, which was just a funny anecdote. I guess it's not a bad way to finish, but playing with a particular individual who, every time we would stand up on the tee box, he would stand up and he'd go, "Oh, geez, look at those trees over there on the left. I'll bet you I'm going there." Sure enough. "Oh, God, there's water on the right. Oh, watch this, boys. I'm going to hit it straight in the drink." And did. It was incredible. Every tee point, his Raz obviously working overtime to find every piece of trouble on the course that he could possibly identify. And then he was talking himself into it with some fantastic self-talk. So I think we've all been guilty of it. The trick is trying to come up with a few techniques to get yourself out of it. And also, the funny thing with the brain is the more you resist, the more it will undermine you at the worst possible moment. So quite often it's finding ways to distract, relax, and recalibrate back into the right thinking, rather than trying to resist and trying to push back. And I guess that's the point that I was trying to make before, about letting those negative thoughts wash over rather than resisting them, because the more you resist, you strengthen them, which is a weird little conundrum with the brain. But Andy Walker, I do think that's about all we've got time for tonight.
Yeah. We've covered a lot.
It's been a lot. I'm really interested in any feedback if anyone thinks that we've completely lost the plot, or that we've got half a clue what we're talking about, or if you think something totally different.
I don't think we've answered too many questions, but
I'm more confused than when we started. A lot of
information out there.
Yeah, so I am playing a comp round this Saturday morning. All things being equal, I've got a lot to think about between now and then after this conversation.
Excellent. Yeah. Glad to help with the thought processes you've got.
Yeah, and the best part is I've got a 7.1 dropping off as well. Free swing's gone, so a little bit of pressure. Anyway.
Well, I've actually got 5 free swings after my 2.8 dropped off, and now I'm 4.7. I've got 5 free swings.
Wow, that is exciting. I've got 2 flag rounds in a row dropping out. This one and then another one, which is not. It's one of my worst flag rounds, so I'm not too concerned about that. But then I think I've got about 3 or 4 free rounds again after that.
Okay.
So anyhow, that is us done for episode 9. We'll be back for episode 10, and then we've really got to think about the Christmas break. There's a few plans that we've got that we can't share just yet for a Christmas special, but we'll talk about that in probably the next episode. But ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done already, hit the like button, get on the Missing Links Golf Show Facebook page, jump on our website, auto-download the podcast on your podcast service of choice. What else could you do? You could leave us a review, Andy Walker. You could absolutely leave us a review, 5-star review.
What I'd really like, and we talked about it earlier, if you've got any great books, not necessarily golf books, but anything to do with mental approach, I'd really like to widen the range of books that we've looked at. So if you've read a great book on whether it be psychology or mental approach to golf, love to hear from you.
Yep, absolutely. Jump on the Missing Links Book Club at the Missing Links Golf Show Facebook page. But ladies and gentlemen, that's us done for episode 9. It's been a lot of fun. Andy Walker, it's time for the electronic rock king around here, royalty-free theme song that is eerily close to what was being played at the Australian Open.
It was. I did notice that. Yeah. They've copied us. That's what happens when you achieve greatness.
When you achieve greatness in such a short amount of time. Sandy Wedge, thanks very much for your input. To all our listeners in Mexico, it's been great having you once again. Have a lovely evening, and we will see you next time, Andy Walker. Good night.
Have a great week, everyone.